Hello, everybody. This is Stacy Kruzik, your host for today's DevTalk on the latest DataWedge updates. We have Darren Campbell and Kathy Way that will be presenting today. So we're just going to wait just a minute here for a few folks to jump on, and we'll get it underway at about 10:02, 10:03. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Stacy Kruzik here. Thanks so much for joining us with our Dev Talk today. We have Darren and Kathy Way from our DevRel team presenting today for you on the latest updates for DataWedge. You see Darren on screen. Kathy is somewhere out there. We're trying to figure out that screen right now, but at least you've got a couple of us in place here so you know who you're talking to. Just wanted to go over a couple of things with you. Basic housekeeping rules and some updates on some events that we're going to be having, and a way to access our developer portal, which is completely free to you. We encourage everybody to join our developer community at developer.zebra.com. You can go on there and register for free. On the landing page, you'll also see a space and a link to receiving all of our news and our updates on these Dev Talks. I encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to that. I promise you we keep it very technical oriented, but what you will receive is a monthly DevBuzz newsletter that's geared directly to you as an audience to ensure that you're getting the right information and technical updates as needed. The next slide, Darren. And we have some great upcoming Dev events we're really excited for in our virtual world that we're living in right now. We're looking at October, where we're going to be presenting a Zebra Dev Talk Community Day, similar to our Dev Talk series here, where we do one presentation once a month. We're going to have a whole day and a whole slew of information for you from our DevRel team experts. So we're compiling that information right now on those technical topics. I encourage you, if you'd like to provide us some feedback on the type of topics you'd like to see, we're always open to that, and we want to make sure that we're giving you what you need. You can always email with that or any questions to developer@zebra.com. I'm happy to make sure that we get you to the right place and the right person if you have a question. And if you have any feedback, we're, again, always open to it. The next thing that we'd like to announce is we are moving from our former AppForum up to a Zebra DevCon event. We're looking to host this as a live event, fingers crossed, pandemic over, in Europe at some point, with a broadcast to the US and APAC, and it is probably going to happen sometime in June. We still have the location and all the logistics to be confirmed, but please watch, as we'll be announcing some of this on our Twitter account and other social media accounts as well, and in our DevBuzz newsletter. And with that, I want to turn this over to Darren and Kathy, and you guys are up, and let's hear a little bit about DataWedge today.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy. So I'm going to let Kathy drive for the first half of this presentation. So
Darren,
I'll be advancing the slides.
We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh no, can you not hear me? Can you unmute me?
Always the technical issue, right?
Oh dear.
Audio,
computer audio. Okay, I should be okay. It says talking Darren. Can you hear me? Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So it looks like just Stacey couldn't hear us. Stacey, are we okay
Darren,
to go?
I'm still not hearing you online here.
Okay, Kathy could hear me.
Fine.
Maybe if someone in the audience could put in the question box if you can hear me, please.
Okay, we got it.
It's going, is it?
If anyone's having trouble listening, please post a question in the in the question and answer box. That was great. Sorry about the interruption.
Okay, right, thank you. So let's get going then. So I'm Darren Campbell, and I'm here with Kathy Way, with both software engineers at Zebra Technologies. We're going to be speaking about some of the latest features in DataWedge, as well as just quickly recapping some of the more fundamental features of DataWedge as well. So we're both going to be switching in and out of the presentation. Kathy's going to take the first half, and I'm going to be driving the slides. So I apologize if things get a little bit clunky, but we'll do our best. So Kathy, without further ado, over to yourself.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Stacey and Darren. So this is our agenda. First, we'll provide an overview and introduction to DataWedge, followed by next generation simulscan, which replaces the original simulscan features that have been deprecated. Then we will continue to cover the new and enhanced plugins between RFID and voice input. Then we'll talk about several new security enhancements to ensure authorized access to the DataWedge apps and intent APIs. And lastly, other enhancements listed here will be discussed, ranging from new decoders to enterprise keyboard integration. So we've got quite a bit to cover with all these new features, so let's get started. Next slide, please. So let me take a step back quickly and provide an overview for those who are not familiar with DataWedge or just need a quick primer. DataWedge is available by default on our Zebra Android devices, providing the capability to capture data from different input sources, such as barcode scanner or voice input, to process the data using basic or custom rules, and then output the data to any app. This can be done without writing a single line of code by simply using the DataWedge user interface. For example, if you have an inventory app and you're tracking items received from a shipment, simply put focus in the barcode field of your app and use DataWedge to scan in the barcode. In doing so, the scan data is populated into the barcode field simply by configuring a DataWedge profile and associating it with your app. Alternatively, you can write your own app to retrieve data from basic Android intents with the use of a broadcast receiver, or use our DataWedge intent APIs for finer control. And you can refer to this link here for information on the APIs. Next slide, please. So you may have heard the term Zebra Mobility DNA, so I thought I'd mention it in this presentation. DataWedge is part of Zebra's Mobility DNA, our unique software ecosystem designed for our Zebra hardware, providing special enterprise capabilities for increased productivity. There are multiple categories that classify the various products under this Zebra Mobility DNA umbrella. I've listed here the categories, as well as examples of products that fit into each category. DataWedge is classified under the Productivity Tool category, along with products such as Enterprise Keyboard and Enterprise Home Screen. Technically, it can also fit in the Development Tool category as well, since we offer intent APIs for you to create your own scanning app. Some of you may be familiar with these other products mentioned in the other categories. These variety of products drive seamless integration, simpler management, and increased productivity. There's constant updates, new features, and enhancements to our software portfolio. So to find out about the latest Mobility DNA features, you can refer to our TechDoc site with the link provided here to stay in the know by checking the site, which includes quick videos demonstrating the new features, as you can see here from a screen capture of the homepage. Next slide, please. And there are a couple of resources I'd like to highlight that provide a wealth of information. The first being TechDocs. I wanted to bring to your attention some recent updates. So we'll open up the browser and load the TechDocs homepage. If you wouldn't mind opening that up, Darren.
Sure. Just let me know where to click around, Kathy.
Okay. So in our homepage here, you can see there's a variety of product information, including EMDK, Enterprise Browser, MX, and Stage Now. On the DataWedge tile, you can click on any of the buttons you see on the bottom of the tile to display the corresponding section, or you can click on the version selector dropdown to select the desired DataWedge version that you're using. And so we'll just click onto the DataWedge title to bring up the DataWedge homepage. And here at the top menu, there's a selection of sections to click into. the same ones seen from the TechDocs homepage on the DataWedge tile. Some of the newer sections are Get Started, which is next to About at the very top, which serves as a landing page to kick off learning about DataWedge. It discusses how to use DataWedge, lists the features, provides a guide on using the DataWedge Intent APIs, and provides best practices. And then on the top menu next to Get Started is Profiles. Profiles are at the core of DataWedge functionality, so typically this is frequently visited. The Profile section, if we can click into there, Darren.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second here while we have a pause? Darren, are you able to make the screen full? Some of the participants are having some trouble seeing it.
I can indeed.
Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you.
I can try and make the font a little bit bigger as well. There we go. Yeah, okay, sorry about that.
That's very helpful, I think. Thanks so much.
Okay, so here in the Profiles page, it was revamped, providing a visual on how DataWedge works with the different plugins. The main ones being Input, with the various input options, Process, or the rules for formatting the data, and Output, the methods to output the data captured. Along with the table, well, on this graphic, we also have utilities, which are the options that can be used with DataWedge, Data Capture Plus, as well as Enterprise Keyboard Configuration. And then if we scroll down to the bottom.
To the very bottom?
Right, just this table here, we have the types of configurations for each plugin, where you can click on each specific section for more information. So navigating back to the top menu, there's also guides next to APIs. If we click in there, it provides developer guides on the use of DataWedge features and APIs. And we will be covering content provider and secure access to DataWedge APIs later. From the top menu, we also have samples. These are sample apps that are gradually being added over time. So keep an eye out for new samples. A tutorial is now also available, walking through how to receive scanned barcode data through an Android intent. Then in the top menu, we also have Remote Admin, which enables mass configuration deployment using DataWedge Manager CSP. And lastly, licensing is a brand new section. For Zebra Professional Series devices, such as the TC21 and TC26, a mobility DNA license is now required to unlock certain features like multi-barcode and document capture from the next-gen simulscan. And then we'll navigate back to the presentation. And I'll just finish off this slide. Another very useful technical resource is Darren's blogs, particularly providing coding snippets and sample apps. So this is an invaluable resource to help our developers. Next slide, please. So what's new prior to DataWedge 8? I'll quickly go over the new features across the different DataWedge versions and highlight the major new features prior to DataWedge 8.0, ranging from version 7.3 through 7.6. One of the most visible changes is the DataWedge UI, which has been refreshed, as you can see from the screen capture here, showing the same DataWedge settings screen from version 7.6 or higher on the right compared to an older version, the black screen on the left. And just to call out a few other new features, we have new voice commands to navigate with a foreground app and issue specific key presses, as well as a new decoder signature. Next slide, please. Now with DataWedge 8.0, one of the major changes introduced is the licensing requirement to unlock certain features, as I mentioned earlier. This screen on the left displays the message when attempting to use one such feature on an unlicensed professional device. The other features listed here will be covered more in depth later. Next slide, please. And with the latest version, DataWedge 8.0, we introduced a new feature to grant DataWedge API access to specific apps. There's also a new trigger, wake up, and scan feature as shown in the UI, allowing scanning with a trigger press while a device is in a suspended state. So scans can be performed with a trigger button while the device is suspended. Note that this option is available for use in DataWedge if supported by the underlying scanner framework. In other words, if the underlying scanner framework doesn't support this particular feature, it won't be visible in the DataWedge UI. So now Darren will start covering the next generation simulscan features in the next slide.
Yep, thank you very much, Kathy. So yeah, I do apologize if I'm a little bit distracted. My dog is trying to eat my chair, and she's only just started to do that as the webinar started, so maybe she's lacking attention. But okay, so to the topic at hand, we're going to start talking about the next generation simulscan. So the first change that I want to cover is the addition of basic multi-barcode. Now, we've had multi-barcode in Zebra devices for quite some time now, and we continue to add new features into multi-barcode. In fact, we just had meetings this week with the team, and they've committed to new multi-barcode related features like the ability to group barcodes. But what we have today is like what you have out in the field now is the ability to scan up to 100 barcodes in a single trigger pull, which is maybe a little bit overkill, but we had to set the upper limit somewhere. You can either choose to scan a specific number of barcodes, or you can choose to instantly be told about any barcode which is seen within the device's field of view. So whereas if you tried to use this feature a couple of DataWedge versions ago, you may have found it a bit limiting because you had to say this number of barcodes and no more or no fewer. That now it's a lot more functional. We have like instant reporting as of DataWedge like 7.6, I think it is. There are a lot more notes and caveats on this feature available on Tech Docs. I put the link there, like the way it interacts with some of the older iterations of this feature, like continuous read. You can report the data through intents, which is like what most developers tend to use, or through keystrokes, like injecting key events into the page. And if you do key events, then you can also specify the separator, which separates each barcode so that when you're parsing it in your application, you have some idea of where one barcode starts and the other barcode ends. I did put a blog post up very recently. I think I've done like three blog posts on DataWedge over the past few weeks. If you go to the developer portal, I've got this one on scanning multiple barcodes with a single trigger pull. I wrote a very basic application there where you can scan. You can either choose to scan 9 barcodes, or you can choose to receive all of the barcodes as it sees them in its field of view. The sample box, I've added that to the GitHub repository, sort of representative of what you might be trying to scan. These don't all have to be the same symbologies. You see you've got a 2-dimensional barcode as well as a couple of 1-dimensional ones there. And I think I've got a video on the next slide just to see this running. But if you just wanted to see some basic app doing multi-barcode, then I would recommend this app as your starting point. Yeah, here we are. So it's a very short video. I just scanned the barcodes twice. You see how quick that is as well. To capture all 9 barcodes. First of all, it was almost immediate that it captured all 9, and then secondly, it was shooting them to the UI as it received them. And I can almost guarantee that the delay you saw in between each barcode was Android trying to update the UI. In fact, I shouldn't blame Android. It was probably my poor coding. Maybe I could have done it more efficiently. But yeah, there you go. Scanning multiple barcodes with a single trigger pull. And it gets a little bit so we with next generation simulscan, if you've seen some of the marketing we've been putting out about this is a change from what we previously had simulscan, which had a set of capabilities, and we're now moving those capabilities elsewhere in the product. So you have these features that we've added to the barcode plugin. Basic multi-barcode is one of them. I'm going to hand over to Kathy very shortly to talk about document capture. But this next generation simulscan is where we continue to add those new features, like new versions of the old simulscan features, which were very like tailored to individual customers and not really for general consumption. So yeah, hopefully we can do a more general job with next gen simulscan. Yeah, but sorry, Kathy, I'm taking over your slide. Please explain anchor barcodes and document capture.
No worries. Thanks, Darren. So document capture is, as Darren mentioned, a new feature that's part of next generation simulscan. where a custom template is designed to capture designated areas within the template as individual images after scanning what's known as the anchor barcode, what you see here in the template in the center of the slide. So with a scan of a single anchor barcode, the designated areas of a form, such as the address and signature fields, are captured as separate images. This is useful particularly for proof of delivery, providing evidence that a package has been delivered to a recipient and serving as a delivery confirmation. It is important to note that the tool to design your own custom template is not available yet, but it is planned to be in the future. In the meantime, reach out to your local sales representative for a custom template to be created to suit your business needs. So once the template is created, it is in the form of an XML file. DataWedge Manager CSP would be used to import the template XML file so that it can be selected within DataWedge. Once imported, you would tap on the Document Capture Template option, circled in red here, which would then display a selection of imported templates. Once the template is selected, the template name would be displayed here rather than none, which is what you see underneath the Document Capture Template field. Then your app would retrieve the scan data by using the DataWedge content provider. This is required for files larger than 500 kilobytes, which is generally the case with document capture. Next slide, please. Here I'm going to play a quick video demonstrating the use of document capture in action. So I have a device running a sample app on the right that's going to scan the template on the left of the screen. So if you don't mind going ahead and playing the video, Darren, you'll see that I'm toggling the scanner to turn on the scan beam, then aiming the scanner at the barcode. And this is pretty quick. Once the barcode was decoded, the address and signature fields were displayed as separate images as specified by the template. Next slide, please. DataWedge Content Provider leverages Android's Content Provider app component, which encapsulates data that can be shared between apps, providing a level of security. It is primarily meant to be used for document capture, since the size of the images captured would be unknown at the time of processing, and chances are they would surpass the 500 kilobyte file size limit. Since decoder signature also captures image files, which Dan will go into later, Content Provider can also be applied. After configuring DataWedge, whether for document capture or decoder signature, enable the Use Content Provider setting as shown here in the device screen. Then you would need to handle data processing within your app. Since only 768 kilobytes of data can be sent at once through Android's Content Provider cursor object, if the received data exceeds this limit, the remaining data is sent in subsequent chunks of 768 kilobytes in size. So it's up to your app to receive these separate chunks of data and concatenate the data together to reconstruct the full data object. The Content Provider Programmer's Guide on the TechDocs site contains details on usage and sample code. With that, I'll pass it back to you, Darren.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, so let's go through some of the new decoders that we're supporting in, see, these aren't all in DataWedge 8.1. Some of these have been introduced in earlier versions of DataWedge. In fact, this is the signature decoder. It's been around for quite some number of years. I remember doing signature decoder development back when I was writing for Windows Mobile CE. So yeah, we've had this in the product for a while. It's moved about a bit. It was moved into the simulscan logic, and now it's moving. In fact, I think this slide is wrong. It's not going to be considered part of next generation simulscan. It's actually going to be just in the barcode as a symbology. But if you weren't aware of it, the signature barcode exists. It enables you to capture a image in between a couple of lines. You see some examples here. This is a John Doe signature. This is like an address it's capturing. It's not doing any kind of OCR on that address. It literally is just capturing an image of what's between the barcode lines here. It does need to be provided in a content provider, as Kathy says, in case the size exceeds the maximum allowable size of an object. It's also good programming practice in Android as well. You can't just send a JPEG object through an intent. It doesn't work that way. You can, that's it. Scan signature barcode. There's a number of different options as well that you can specify. If you don't want any kind of quality loss, you can specify the capture as a bitmap file. There is a sample. That's what I was trying to say. If you go to techdocs.zebra.com and then click on DataWedge and that samples link that Kathy was demonstrating earlier on, then you'll see one to capture with a signature barcode. So do consider that. The other new decoder of note has been added very recently. It's OCR, optical character recognition. It's important to understand the scope of what is supported in DataWedge out of the box. It doesn't have the full, you can't just write something on a piece of paper or an envelope and scan it and expect that to work. We are supporting a very specific and limited number of fonts for OCR. This was driven by customer requests and customer use cases. So there's no plans to expand these to other fonts in the backlog, but that doesn't mean it won't be done in the future. So these fonts are used on travel documents. I've shown a couple of examples here. This is a passport, driving license, like visas as well, although it was more difficult to fit a visa image on this page, so I just use a couple of these examples. But these fonts are designed to be easily read by machines. And so we're reading those fonts, and the way it works is you enable these decoders, either OCR-A or OCR-B, and the links actually point to more detailed information about what each of these decoders can encode. Some are just numeric, or you can have full ASCII, depending on the type of font that you're choosing. You just point the scanner at the text, and you'll receive in your data string the optical character recognition of the text, and just the same as if you scanned a barcode. It's actually the exact same field in the intent API, data_string. So yeah, so if you're looking to scan any kind of travel document and do OCR, then that option is available to you. It works quite well, but for obvious reasons, I didn't want to video myself scanning my passport. Well, not that I'm using it nowadays anyway. And all sorts of other symbologies support has been added. We have added some postal symbologies. Digimark is an interesting one. There's a video on the Zebra YouTube channel. Plug to that. There's some really good videos on there actually, as well as marketing videos for developers. There's some more overviews of some of our products, like there's Stage Now overviews, there's 5-minute just getting to know some of our products in Zebra. So I definitely recommend our YouTube channel, as well as these DevTalks are posted there. So Digimark, getting off topic, the PS20 video showed this. Essentially, you're encoding barcodes around the whole product. So in a retail environment, it's very easy to for a consumer to scan that box, and then they've essentially scanned the barcode, even though they didn't have to find the barcode on the box. What other interesting ones are there? So yeah, we're constantly adding new symbology support into our scanner framework as they are introduced and standards are developed. DPM is an interesting one. We've had DPM support for a while. I remember years ago, it was only very specific scanners which supported this, and then I think our support was more on the software level, but now you're seeing ubiquitous use of DPM across a number of our scanning engines, and you're able. This is direct part marking. It's a very small barcode, but it's zoomed in, so it doesn't look quite as small as it is in real life. Just enables you to have a mark on metal, looks like brushed metal, and that's essentially a barcode there on the left-hand side that looks like it has the serial number and manufacturer's number. These are just images I found off Google. I'm looking at the Creative Commons license, of course. So that's new decoder support. I want to cover some of the new plugins, or enhanced plugins, I should say, that we've added. There's a couple. So we had this image earlier on. Kathy was saying, I think it's really good though. It just sort of shows how DataWedge works and all fits together. We have had changes and improvements to the RFID plugin. I'll put the TechDocs link there. This will support the MC3300R, and if you don't know all of our products by their number, then shame on you, but there is an image of it in the top right hand corner there. It's the RFID version of our MC3300 scanner, the very latest one. We only support that device today. We will be rolling it out to other devices in the future. I don't have any visibility on the roadmap there though. But yeah, if you're developing an app for that device, then DataWedge is very definitely the easiest way to capture your RFID data on the device. We've added support for all of these RFID attributes, which are a little bit beyond me in the fourth bullet down there. But probably most useful, I think, is in DataWedge 8.0. Previously, you had to manually remap the trigger key because I'll let you in on a secret. All of these things are developed by different business organizations, so sometimes it's quicker to put the hardware together than it is to get the software all together. But now we've got the software all together, and the actual trigger for the scanner works for the RFID gun, RFID capability of the device automatically. And again, you can receive data through keystrokes or intents in a very rapid manner. Obviously, RFID is designed for capturing a lot of data very quickly, so the intents are quick enough to do that. I know we have had some customers concerned about that, but there is it works, so yeah, it's good. That's RFID. Voice input is the other plugin which has received some enhancements over the last few iterations of DataWedge. So back in 2018, we first introduced the feature as beta, and that was Kathy did a really deep dive DevTalk, just going into what you can do with voice input. And we've made improvements. I would describe it now as production ready. At the time, it was a little bit, well, it was beta software, so hey, what do you expect? But things like actually using the push to talk key. Oh, I'm on camera, so you know, all of our devices have this kind of dedicated push to talk key on it. This is a TC52X. So you can now just press a key and then talk, and it will recognize your voice, and that voice will go through what's it called, speech to text. The text will then be delivered to DataWedge in the same intent as you're receiving your scan data. Again, it's that data underscore string, and your voice is received. So it just enables you to easily add voice input into your application without having to write any extra code. We have enhanced this now, and I've got a very short video, and I hope the audio works. Otherwise, it would be a bit of a silly video to show, showing the feature we added in 7.5 that talks about not only capturing voice data for input, but also controlling applications through your voice. Things like moving to the next activity element, like the next button or the previous button, pressing the back key essentially, which is the equivalent of escape, enter to submit a form. Let me just try and show this video, and hopefully it works. Otherwise, I'll sort of pretend that I'm saying the text, but we'll see how it goes.
We're not hearing any audio, Darren.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, that's a shame. So take my word for it then. You could see that the video was moving around the fields by saying send next. It was entering the values by saying send enter. So these slides will be made available after the presentation, so I will make sure that that video is uploaded to somewhere where we can view it. So there you go. Yeah, but it is possible. This is just showing the DataWedge configuration of how you can define those commands. So yeah, not only data input, but now also controlling your app through voice, and now production ready for the voice input plugin. I did do a very simple sample app because I hadn't seen many people using voice. Or I hadn't seen many questions about it on the developer portal, which either means no one's using it or it all works perfectly and no one's got any questions. So just in case it was the former, I put a sample together. I'll be putting a blog about this over the next few weeks, but this just shows how that you would use voice input to maybe recognize a task from a predefined list of tasks. And you can, like, for example, in the first screenshot there, I've said, what is my next task? And it's recognized that. It uses the Levenstein algorithm, the same algorithm you use to test for like spelling errors, where you're comparing the similarity of strings. And you know, you could, in theory, call out to a something like Google Dialogflow for natural language processing, and then get the intent, as Dialogflow calls it, of what you want to do based on your spoken text. But yeah, in terms of capturing the data, DataWedge makes that very easy, and then it's up to your app to do whatever you want to do with the captured string. New topic. I want to talk about the ways that we have enhanced the security of DataWedge over the last few releases, certainly since I was last giving one of these dev talks on what DataWedge is. Now, there's three different ways that we've enhanced security. The first is the DataWedge Manager CSP, and this is available through Stage Now, or you would also be able to access this through your EMMs that support Zebra devices or OEM config. If you're running MX 9.2 or higher, the use cases here are to try and prevent a rogue app from interfering with the functionality of other apps on the device. So DataWedge, obviously very powerful, has an API, has a service that's running on the device that's very configurable. You can mass deploy, for example, by copying a configuration to a particular folder on the device, and it just works. It's magic. Well, it's not magic, it's science. But the point is, if there was a nefarious app on the device, which there shouldn't be because you're locking it down, maybe you're using enterprise home screen, something like that. But if there was a nefarious app, it could do some damage to your DataWedge configuration. So with this Stage Now capabilities, you can choose to turn off that automatic importing of the configuration file. You can manually import a specific configuration file which you've maybe copied to the device with the file manager CSP. You can disable allowing an application to import the configuration via the DataWedge Intent API. That's the other capability. Or you can actually add one of those next-gen simulscan templates that Kathy covered earlier on when we were talking about the anchor barcodes. So all of that functionality is available from DataWedge Manager CSP. More like high level, stopping someone from changing the configuration of your DataWedge through importing an unwanted configuration file. The other way we have enhanced security is, so previously, before DataWedge 8, I think this was introduced in 8, but if you wanted to get data, I've talked about getting voice data or getting RFID data or getting scan data. The only way to do that through an intent was to send an implicit intent. You specified the action and whether you wanted to start activity or send broadcast, and anything which had registered for that action would receive your data. So if you could have multiple broadcast receivers on the device, and any of them would receive the data as long as they had registered a receiver for that. Interestingly, if you had multiple apps on the device that had specified the action in their manifest, then they would all get called with the data through start activity, which obviously you'd only ever see one. And so I did some testing. I was surprised it worked that way, but yeah, it did. Whereas now you can choose the specific application by creating an explicit intent. So you do that by specifying the package name, and then only the package that you specify will receive the barcode scan or whatever it is, the intent from DataWedge. It does only apply to the intent plugin. It doesn't apply to the DataWedge API return values, so bear that in mind. However, okay, yes, so just bear that in mind. The other thing to note is that it also supports signatures. So imagine you're really, really determined to receive the barcode data that is being sent by DataWedge, and you have created a package whose package name matches an app on the device which is a known good app, and so that's been configured to receive the DataWedge scans, but your nefarious app has the same package name, and so you uninstall the old good app and you install your nefarious app with that same package. Now an explicit intent would still get sent to your nefarious app and it would receive the data. What you can do in DataWedge here is to also specify the signature of the certificate which signed the application. It's a little bit more involved to get this, and I've put a link there to a blog that I wrote about getting this information. But essentially, this means that the DataWedge intent will only be sent to the application who was signed with your signing certificate. And so this nefarious app, obviously, they didn't know your signing certificate, and so they've put themselves on the device. They would not get your scan. It's very, very secure. You are, of course, going through more effort, but you're getting the benefit of security from doing that. That's the constant trade-off of security in any kind of development, as you know. Yeah, so this slide doesn't tell you anything else. You can also choose to specify the component through the setConfig API. The new, like this row down here has been added to specify the component configuration. DataWedge, if you're doing everything through the UI, DataWedge will automatically generate the signatures for you. It's a lot easier than if you try and generate these yourself. But again, I did that blog post. I talk about using things like the key tool or the OpenSSL tool to sort of convert signatures of the from your Java key store or maybe your Android debug key store. But yeah, see that blog for more information. This is just a very short video if it actually plays. There is no audio in this video, luckily, so we won't have that problem again. But this example just shows how it asks you, do you want the signature of the calculator to be included, or the signature of Chrome in this case? So you can choose one or the other. Interestingly, because I've specified two applications here, they will both receive the scan data. So that's how you can send data to multiple applications through DataWedge. I think that also supports start activity as well, obviously, though only one will be sort of shown on the screen, be the last one to receive the start activity. Not really a common use case. And the third way we've secured access to the intent API is a little bit, how best to explain this? If this is something that you want, this is a process you will follow if you really want to do this. I think that's the best way to explain this. So what we're trying to do here is to we are an administrator, and we want to prevent applications from using the DataWedge API. And the DataWedge API is very powerful, and what we've done, we've categorized it into 4 different categories. I won't read it all out, the information's on the slide here. And as an administrator, we can choose to prevent applications from accessing any of these sort of categories, and we can whitelist specific applications which we allow to call the DataWedge API. So if there's an application that we want to be able to call the API, we can whitelist it, but there also needs to be some change made to that application as well. And the steps, and Kathy did mention that there's a programmer's guide for this on TechDoc, so follow that guide. I haven't been able to try this myself because it requires MX version 10.1, and I only deal with the public releases, and I think 10.0 is the latest public release. After this DevTalk, I'm sure someone will contact me and tell me I'm wrong on that. But yeah, I couldn't. Soon you'll be able to play with this and get this working. But what you do, the process is, as an administrator, you whitelist a specific application and say, yes, you are able to call the DataWedge service. And then you also choose which of those API categories from 1 to 4 that you want the application to access. The application then needs to request a token, and it does that through the EMDK Profile Manager API. And once it has that token, it can call the DataWedge API. So I'll do a sample app on this when it gets released. But yeah, in general, if this is something you're interested in doing, then we've allowed that capability, and it's coming soon to a device near you, as they say. I don't know, no one says that. Okay. And then finally, I'm conscious of time. I will leave time for questions at the end of this. Well, I don't have a hard stop, but other enhancements that we've made that are worth noting: connection, disconnection, auto switch. Use case here is I have a Bluetooth scanner which is connected to my device, and it goes out of range, or it runs out of battery, or someone steals it from me. I don't want my employee to stop being able to work, and so DataWedge can be configured to automatically switch to the internal scanner, or any scanner really, but you normally switch to the internal scanner on the device when it loses connection to its Bluetooth scanner, its RS6000, for example. This obviously only applies to devices with an internal scanner, like the WT6000 doesn't have one. So, you know, but if you're doing this on a TC52, for example, then yeah, automatically switch between the internal imager and the Bluetooth scanner whenever it connects or disconnects. and this feature is now available in DataWedge. This was added a little while ago, 7.3. If you are writing an application that will run in Chrome, a web app, and you're not using Enterprise Browser, then invariably you're almost certainly going to try and receive your barcode data as characters, as keystrokes. And there was a limitation before DataWedge 7.3 where the keystrokes were actually sent as key down and key up. They weren't sent as key press, which it worked fine in sort of terminal emulation software and that kind of stuff, but it didn't work in browsers unless you did like really finicky workarounds. But now it does as an option. You can choose to send characters as key presses or key events. Maybe I've got that the wrong way around. But essentially, if you want to receive keystroke data in the document object models key press event, then check this checkbox. And I did a whole developer portal post explaining this in a little bit more detail. But this was a very common ask, particularly as progressive web apps. There is always a vocal minority of developers who continue to use like web apps and progressive web apps. So yeah, this feature is for you. Auto import, I mentioned auto import as something you can stop happening, but if you don't want it to stop happening and you want to auto import your DataWedge configuration, there was a long-standing I don't want to call it an issue, a long-standing frustration that you needed to do some convoluted workaround with renaming the file whilst it copied over because DataWedge was trying to consume it too quickly. That's been fixed. In fact, it was fixed way back in DataWedge 6.9, but I mention it now because it was such a common concern, and we fixed it now. So thanks, well done, guys. Final couple of features: illumination, brightness. We have, like, you might be scanning barcodes outdoors in the daylight. You might be scanning barcodes inside at midnight, and you're going to want different illumination brightness for doing those. In fact, outside in the daylight is probably a really bad example there. But essentially, you might want to conserve battery as well in your illumination. So you can now specify a value between 10 and 0. I took that screenshot from a demo video that the team had put together, so you can see there is a difference. It's not like night and day, it's like twilight and an hour after twilight. So yeah, but it is possible you can save battery. You'd save quite a bit of battery just by turning it down a bit, depending on how many scans you're doing an hour, obviously. And last one, and Kathy did cover this, but this is quite a common use case from a device which is asleep. How do you start scanning? Previously, you had to press the power key. You had to press a key that you would define as a wake-up source. We didn't cover that in this presentation, but you can specify a button as a wake-up source. But now you can also have the trigger not only as a wake-up source, but it will also start scanning as well. So this isn't configured to do that. But yeah, if you check that box, then all you do is press the trigger button, the device wakes up and starts scanning, and you can capture your barcode data immediately. Finally, I won't go into a lot of detail about this because I'm provisionally scheduled to do a dev talk on it later in the year. I'm not sure. We'll talk about. I don't know if that's actually going to happen in November or later. But enterprise keyboard integration. Kathy mentioned this as a utility. You can, if you've specified multiple keyboard layouts, and these two images on the left there are showing two different keyboard layouts. You can choose to associate those with different activities in your application or different applications. And so using DataWedge's profile manager feature, you can switch between different keyboard layouts depending on which activity you have in the foreground. You can also choose to use the DataWedge API to switch keyboard layouts. So if you're a fan of Enterprise Keyboard and the Keyboard Designer and you want to switch your keyboard layouts, then this is a feature for you. I did a sample app. It was actually quite fun to get it working because it's not a very complicated API to use, but yeah, just have a read through that and use that as your jumping off point. And so if my memory serves, yeah, that's all the content that we had today. I was saying before this call started though, that in the week or so leading up to this presentation, I've heard all sorts of different people who are using DataWedge in different ways telling me, yep, I'm going to be on the call because I'm sure you're going to cover this specific feature of DataWedge. And DataWedge is a huge, very powerful, capable piece of software. So if there's a demand for other areas that we didn't cover today, then get in contact. The email I think Stacey said was developer@zebra.com. zebra.com, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, we can put the content together. It's honestly, it's what we're here to do. So there's some links to resources. These slides will be available after the presentation on our developer portal. The YouTube recording, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel in, like, I don't know, a few weeks, I think, depending on how quick our admins can get that up. But other than that, I will hand it over to Stacey, and hopefully I haven't been talking on mute for the past 35 minutes or so.
No, just mute for me, but we worked that out. We have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and get to a few that I think that we should highlight today, but we want to be conscientious of everyone's time since we have about 10 minutes left in the webinar. Please know that if we did not get your questions, we can download these and try and address them in one way or another, even if it's in a follow-up blog to our post on the DevTalk. And as Darren said, we encourage you to send these to our developer@zebra.com, and we'll make sure that we address these. Who knows, it might be another presentation that we make sure that we have to put together for you so you have your answers. So knowing that, I'm going to just kind of run through some of these. Does DataWedge allow you to use multi-scanning Zebra devices which allow post to intent on the server device? I don't know if that makes sense.
So we do have an IP plugin where you can send your data over Internet Protocol, IP. Most people would tend to receive the data in their application as an intent and then do a REST call to their backend server somewhere and handle it within the application, if I've understood the question correctly.
Okay. Someone was inquiring about the support for general OCR and OCR using any line as stated in the tech docs. Are you able to go in a little bit more on that, or do you have any place that you can direct them to? Kathy, please feel free to weigh in here as well.
I would direct them to Ian. I'm not the best person to answer that. I don't know, Kathy, if you've got any experience with it.
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah. So we'll make sure that we send your question off to someone to respond to you. Again, please send it off to our developer@zebra.com to make sure that we have your email and most current information. Are there any plans to support NFC tags capture in DataWedge?
No, no, there's not. I mean, we support RFID, which obviously is a related technology, but I haven't heard demand from the field for that. Like we don't have an API for NFC because we don't duplicate any of the functionality that Android already provides, and Android has an NFC API. But yeah, I haven't heard anything, or like customer requests or people talking internally about it is the honest answer.
Okay, can we add a feature request to enable the DCP plugin soft button to trigger the DW voice input instead of the PTT key?
I can't remember if the team are doing that already. I mean, it's not in the product. I know there was an item in the backlog to say improve, but I don't think I read it. I just read the headline. So yeah, I can make sure that we have that captured. I can't guarantee that will be in the product. It will just be evaluated by the engineering team.
Yeah, he's saying it's not ergonomic when you press that PTT key on the TC.
Yeah.
51, when worn as a wearable, or a soft button on the screen would be preferred, something like that. So we'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. I mean, you can start it with an intent with a DataWedge API call, I thought. Oh, maybe no. Okay, no, sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe you can't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've made a note of that. I'll double back on with the engineering team on that.
Okay. DataWedge voice requires internet connection, correct?
Incorrect. So, sorry, that sounds a bit facetious. We do support offline validation. It does depend on GMS being on the device. So we won't support it on a device with GMS restricted enabled, and we also won't support it on any of our China SKU devices. But yeah, we do have offline validation as well as online. It's an option in the DataWedge profile settings.
Okay. This is an interesting scenario. They're building an app for their customers and they use all kinds of different Zebra devices. So they're running different DataWedge versions on those devices. So is Zebra planning on providing any API to support this? To consolidate, it looks like.
So yeah, you would tend to target like the lowest common denominator. We have had API support for basic support ever since DataWedge 6.0, and you're going back until like 2016 for that. But there is an API to get the version of DataWedge. I remember a few years back I was like calling that version API to check whether the capabilities were present. So that's would be my recommendation. I'm not really sure. Like we're not going to be introducing new features into the old versions of DataWedge. What tends to happen is older devices will receive updated versions of DataWedge through the Lifeguard program. So you get an updated version of your operating system. DataWedge is included in that operating system as a preloaded application and service, and that's how you get an updated version of DataWedge. But yeah, hopefully that's answered the question.
Okay, yeah. Trying to go through here because some of these are some good product ideas too. So I have some regular issues in decoding and some simple 1D barcodes with the MC92 devices. Something is transmitted, but the correct information. Is there an example of data present in the barcode? Something having to do with barcode.
MC92. Sure. Are you sure it's MC92? That's a CE device. So I think it ran KitKat as well, actually. But
KitKat. Okay.
Well, no. So the question is, I didn't quite get the question, Stacey. Is there an example of?
Yeah, there's example of the data present in the barcode. You give some numbers, an example of the result. Is this? I might have to send this to you, Darren, and we might have to have him email us on this because I think there's a little bit more detail in here.
Yeah, I mean, all of our apps, all of our devices come with this DataWedge demo app. I mean, it might not be glaring orange for you, but that's if you want to just quickly scan a barcode to see what's in it, that's probably the easiest way to do it on one of our devices.
Okay, and you had mentioned some additional fonts that will be supported in the future. Do you have any idea what those would be or when they would be out?
Oh, no, sorry if I gave the wrong impression there. So there's no intention on supporting additional fonts in the future. What I probably said something along the lines of we've received specific customer requests for these fonts, and like if we received requests for other fonts, then obviously that would be considered. But yeah, I think I was more trying to justify or answer the question, why do you only support these two fonts? Why don't you have general support for handwriting recognition or you know, that was why I said that. So yeah, sorry if that would come across as misleading.
Okay. And this is interesting. How does a developer move an existing app from simulscan API development to DataWedge API?
So it depends what features of simulscan you were using. If you look at there is a product marketing bulletin whose number I forget, 10 something. Anyway, so on there's like a table. In fact, I think Kathy also has this, or Eddie has this in the tech docs, and it shows what the old feature of simulscan was, the new feature that we're like transitioning to, and the estimated timescale that would take place in. Yeah, so I would refer you to that product marketing bulletin or the tech docs page for that.
Right, we do have the tech doc page on the homepage of DataWedge, where there's a section with a red box indicating information about the transition from simulscan to next-gen simulscan. So there's a link to the simulscan migration page.
Okay. And we just have one more quick question here. I know there's others and we'll try and address those. I'll send those off to Darren. Can more than one application receive the same voice input from DataWedge at the same time? So for example, if two different applications both decide whether or not to act on the input or not, they might decide.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, you can obviously only have one application running at the same time. So if I was doing that, I did do a blog recently about sending like scan data to an application running in the background, and you could do the same with voice data, and you could send multiple explicit broadcasts to multiple apps, and they would receive that intent because you've specified it in your manifest. I mean, there's multiple ways to do it, I'm sure, but that's just the one that comes to mind. And yes, it would be possible.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't tried it,
Great.
but yeah.
Well, it's 11 o'clock. We're at the top of the hour now, and I just wanted to make sure that we were conscientious of everyone's time today. As Darren had said, that this will be recorded. It will actually go up on the GoToWebinar site. You'll get an email on it, and you can see the raw version of it. And then the final version will be posted on our YouTube playlist and also be addressed in the original blog announcing this DevTalk. Again, if you have any questions, we encourage you to go to developer@zebra.com, and you can go, developer.zebra.com, and we can address questions on the boards there, or you can send us an email at developer@zebra.com. And then we also encourage you to join our private LinkedIn community group. We can address educational and informational questions there as well. And please follow us on Zebra Devs, and we'll follow you back. And you can always find information there and the latest information on upcoming blogs and DevTalks. So with that, I want to thank Darren and Kathy for a really awesome presentation today. I think this was really informative, and we had a great crowd. We really appreciate everybody coming today, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you.